Okay, we're here with M. Sean Duffy of AccidentVictimHelp.com. Sean, we'd like to have some information today about whether when you have a foreign visitor here in the U.S., say a family member is visiting, and they end up injured in a car accident.
The person would be best served by hiring an attorney here in the States before they return. There are certain documents that will need to be signed and processed, and it's much simpler if they sign them in U.S. soil than sign them overseas. The person should also be aware that if it goes to litigation and it goes to court, they will need to return for certain proceedings. One thing they'll need to come back for will be to give a deposition. Sometimes we can do depositions electronically using video cameras at remote locations, but most of the times the person needs to be present. If we're able to do the video deposition, that's only one part of it. The person will need to be examined by doctors on behalf of the defendant, on behalf of the person that allegedly caused the crash.
It has to be doctors from here?
Doctors from here.
Okay.
So in the hypothetical, we're talking about a person from France is driving in Westchester and they're hit by a person from Elmsford, New York. We're going to be suing that person from Elmsford, New York in Westchester County Supreme, possibly in federal court in the Southern District of New York, either of those two courts. That person who lives, the defendant, the person who caused the crash, will have insurance here in the States, and that insurance company will want their local doctors to examine the injured person. They won't hire a doctor back in Europe to do the exam. The reason why they won't is that doctor will be called to testify at trial if the case goes to trial.
Oh, okay.
So the local doctor will be used to defend against this claim. That's why it can be difficult if most of the treatment occurs overseas. It would be best if the person saw doctors here. When they return home, they treat with more doctors, and then they came back and saw more doctors here. Because I'll need a doctor to testify at trial to explain the injuries. And it's expensive enough taking a New York doctor and putting them on the stand. I can't imagine many cases that would be worth flying a doctor in from a foreign country to testify.
So, I was just going to say, all this travel that the actual victim is doing, does that go under compensation?
Unfortunately, no. So if you want to proceed with the case in the States, you're going to need to interact with the state courts here, and your travel expense will be on you. Many cases settle, and
for amounts that
Right.
help with the travel, right?
Right. Many cases settle without going to trial. So I know that these are difficult issues for some people that don't travel that often, but it would be a shame to give up on the claim completely. Hire a local attorney like my firm. We'll pursue the claim out of court and do the best that we can. And you may not have to come back for those events that I mentioned. But be aware that that is part of the process.
Okay, you also do, you can consult a free consultation if this is the case where someone has a visitor that's been in a car accident?
I'd be very happy to meet with anybody in those circumstances. I always try and help.
And paint the picture.
And paint the picture and help them understand what they're looking at. Many cases do settle, and I do have overseas clients who've had success. But I just caution you that there may be a hurdle that requires you to return, and depending on where home is, that may or may not be possible for you. But we go into this with eyes open, and we understand people have difficulties in their own lives, and we can very often get the money despite those difficulties.
Nice. Thank you, Mr. Duffy.